This is the White Coat Investor Podcast, Milestones to Millionaire, celebrating stories of success along the journey to financial freedom. Here is your host, Dr. Jim Dolly.
This is Milestones to Millionaire, episode number 29. This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, 37th Parallel Properties. There's a substantial body of evidence supporting commercial real estate investing. As one of the good guys in the industry, 37th Parallel Properties is a partner I trust. They've been around for more than 10 years and still maintain a 100% profitable track record with clear reporting and excellent educational content. Many of my readers have invested with 37th Parallel, and so have I. I've been happy with my investment. So check them out. Hop on over to whitecoatinvestor.com/37th Parallel. This is the podcast where we use the stories of others reaching their financial milestones to inspire you to do the same. So whatever financial milestone you have reached, whether it's getting back to broke, or paying off your student loans, or your mortgage, or becoming a millionaire, or hitting a net worth of $422,000, whatever your milestone is, we want to celebrate it with you. So apply at whitecoatinvestor.com/milestone, and we'll get you on the podcast and share your story with others. Our guest today is a millionaire, and she has a great story to hear. So let's bring her on and share that with you today. All right, our guest today is Elizabeth. Welcome to Milestones to Millionaire.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're excited to have you. I understand you are a millionaire.
I am. My husband and I are worth $2 million between the two of us. So
that's awesome. So what is your specialty and how far are you out of training?
I am just 5 years out of training. I am an oculoplastic specialist and an ophthalmologist. I am still practicing general ophthalmologist and recently became a life coach as well.
Congratulations on all of that. And you said your approximate net worth is about $2 million or so. What's that divided up into?
1.2 million is in retirement accounts, and that's all invested in stocks and bonds. And 100,000 is in non-retirement accounts in stocks and bonds, or mutual funds, index funds. About 300,000 is in real estate and syndications, real estate funds, and I actively manage some multifamily rental properties. And I have an embarrassing amount in cash, about 400,000 in cash. That's partially because we're renting and still looking for our primary residence. And, just having furnishing for that and wanting to invest more into real estate, but not having found the right deals yet.
Awesome. Well, you're going to have a substantial down payment, it sounds like, when you find that house. So that should work out well. What's been your range of income during your career?
My first job was $225,000, and I was at that job for about 3 years. It was in private practice. I ended up leaving and going to a hospital where my base salary is $215,000, and there was a $35,000 production bonus per year if I met a certain RVU level.
And is your husband working as well?
He is a high school teacher.
High school teacher. So typical teacher income, I assume, throughout this period then.
Yeah. So when we were in Virginia with my first private practice, he made somewhere, I think, around $45,000 a year. So that's pretty typical. Actually, part of the reason why we returned to my hometown is that he makes a lot more here as a teacher. So he's like close to $90,000.
Wow. Sounds like a much better place for a teacher, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your journey. What was your net worth when you came out of training? Do you remember?
Straight out training, I don't quite remember, but I could actually look that up pretty easily. I've been calculating my net worth every month for a very long time. I've been following you since residency, so.
It sounds like a lot of work. I do it about once a year.
I just, I like to go through all my investments, see what they're doing, and so by doing that, I end up calculating my net worth. So it looks like it was $651,000 at the
$651 when you came out of training.
Yes.
Wow, that's impressive. We got to go back even further then. What happened in training that you were able to come out with a net worth of $651,000?
So my intern year, we lived just off my husband's salary, and I put all of my take home into a Roth 401k at the hospital where I did my intern year. And, because intern year is half in 1 year, half in the other year, I maxed out 2 years. So that was it. I've been investing in, we've been maxing out our Roth IRAs every year. Let's see what else. I did an MD PhD, so I do have no medical school debt, so that really
Okay.
helps. I actually flipped 2 houses when I was in grad school slash med school. So I finished grad school kind of off cycle. So instead of going to med school late and kind of losing all the selective time, I opted to just have 8-9 months off. And so during that time is when I flipped those houses. And that was back in that 2008 crash when, I mean, I literally bought one house for $20,000, the other house for $33,000. And
Wow.
so made some good money there, though I've lost money in other real estate investments. So honestly, it was kind of a break-even process between how much I spent on real estate courses, how much I lost, and how much I made.
But definitely not your typical journey for sure that we hear on this podcast. So that's pretty exciting to hear about it. What do you think were your secrets to success? How did you become so wealthy so quickly?
I think definitely my parents taught me good financial advice of always live beneath your means. I didn't actually realize that you could carry a balance on a credit card until much later. I mean, I got my first credit card when I first got to college, but I always thought it was just a way so that you didn't have to carry cash around. I just thought it was a convenience factor and a way for you to kind of make some money off using it, because I always had, credit cards that had like cashback bonuses, and I always paid the balance off every month. Just always living below my means. Always, I was always taught to have money for rainy days. So, I think just those kind of good financial habits. During my MD PhD, I have to admit, I wasn't the happiest of grad students. And so I read a lot of books about personal finance and then investing and read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which kind of led to the real estate investing a little later on. So just being educated. I remember I went to a financial seminar and they put up a graph, in the presentation. And I was like, oh, did that come from, I think it was like some asset allocation book. And the guy was like dumbfounded. So yeah, at some point I think that education though is really important. It's not something we actually get in medical school or residency or fellowship or, any part of our training. Or, honestly, even high school, I think they should start teaching kids about finances.
You got to tell me about this moment when you learned that credit cards could carry a balance, though. Do you remember where you learned that from or how you learned it? Or
I think, I don't actually know. I think it was talking to somebody and finding out they had credit card debt. And I had to ask them what that was. I mean, it was during college at some point.
So let's talk about debt. How much debt do you have currently?
Debt. So I do have a loan on my car, and that's just because the loan is at 0.9%. And I just felt like that interest rate. So when I got that loan, I was actually getting more in just a money market than the interest rate on the car. So I figured, well, I've got the money in this money market and I could pay it off anytime. Interest rates definitely went down with COVID. And so now the interest rate on that bank, on that money market is lower than 0.9%. And so I've been thinking, should I pay it off since I have so much cash? But I've kind of let it ride because I do, have investments I'm looking at. And then my credit cards, again, I just pay off the balance every month. I've never not done that. And I have 190.
Mostly because you didn't know you could.
I did find out later that I could, though, but that seemed like a very bad deal. There have been times where I applied for a card at 0% interest and rode that 0% interest for a little while and then paid it off before I ever paid any interest. So,
what about a mortgage on your home or on the rental properties? Or I guess you're still saving up for a home, so not on the home. But what about the rental properties?
The rental properties, I have $193,000 in mortgage.
So a little bit of debt there still, for sure. Okay, and are you a parent?
No kids. I guess
no
that
kids?
helps too.
Yeah, that certainly doesn't hurt. They can be kind of expensive, but I hear few regrets from those who have them, of course. And you mentioned your upbringing a little bit and how that kind of affected how you think about money. What lessons do you think were useful from your parents versus maybe not so useful from your parents?
Useful was definitely, I think my parents really taught us the value of money young. So at some point, I would say around the young teenage years, if we wanted some bigger ticket item like a bicycle, then we went 50-50. So we had to earn half or save half from gifts from, grandparents, things like that. or saving for allowance. We also got an allowance. So we got allowance so that we could buy our lunch every day in high school if we wanted to, which was $2 a day, or we could save that money and pack our lunch out of leftovers or any food at home. So I always packed my lunch, and every so often might buy like an ice cream bar or something like that as a treat. But I think the managing of money with allowance, the actual like learning how to save money in order to buy things that we wanted. I had jobs in high school. I babysat. I actually got paid $20 an hour to teach people how to use their computers. So I was actually paid pretty well as a high school student.
That is a pretty good income. Let's go back to somebody that's maybe where you were at 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever. They're an MD, PhD student, they're a resident, whatever. What advice do you have for them? They want to get to where you're at.
Yeah, so I think really seeking out a financial education is really important. Like I said, we don't get that in our training. And also learning about the business of medicine. That's also something that we really don't get in our training. So I've met a lot of people who kind of, think, well, as a doctor, I make plenty of money, so I'll be fine. But if you spend all that money, then you're not really keeping much of it. And it's not what you make, it's really what you keep. I think working on mindset, I definitely met people who are they're scared of the numbers or it stresses them out. And, they don't want to look at even what their current situation is. But if you don't know what your current situation is, then you really don't know how to map out a way to get to your goal. If you don't have a goal, then you're definitely never going to get anywhere. So I think working on mindset is also really important.
Mindset, goals, and education. Great advice. Thank you so much for coming on the White Coat Investor podcast. Congratulations on your success. Your inspiring story will help many others to do the same.
Thanks so much. I'm so happy to be here.
What I like about that story is it's not really the traditional pathway to becoming a millionaire for doctors, right? She didn't come out with a negative net worth coming out of training and then live like a resident for 4 or 5 or 6 years or whatever and put all that money away and pay off the student loans and stick it all in index funds. Her story started back during her MD, PhD years, right? Dabbled in real estate, made some money, lost some money, earned some money, and pretty impressive net worth actually by the time she came out of residency. And that can be done, particularly if you have a long training period in there, if you have a working spouse, if you have a real focus on moonlighting during residency. It's entirely possible to come out with a significant amount of money before you even really get started with your traditional career. So I thought that was probably the most significant takeaway there, that you don't have to start from broke if you're in one of those unique situations. So take advantage if you are. This episode is brought to you by 37th Parallel Properties. There's a substantial body of evidence supporting commercial real estate investing. Through the years, as I gained a deeper understanding of the asset class, I added more and more to my portfolio. But unless you want to manage it yourself, the real trick is to find a trusted investment sponsor. As one of the good guys in the industry, 37th Parallel Properties is a partner I trust. To check them out, go to whitecoatinvestor.com/37parallel. Thanks to those of you who are leaving us reviews on this podcast. 5-star reviews really help us spread the word. And so we thank you if you have left us one of those. If not, please do so today on Apple Podcasts or wherever you download your podcasts. Keep your head up, shoulders back. You can do this, and we can help. We'll see you next time on the Milestones to Millionaire podcast.
My dad, your host, Dr. Dolly, is a practicing emergency physician, blogger, author, and podcaster. He is not a licensed accountant, attorney, or financial advisor, so this podcast is for your entertainment and information only and should not be considered official, personalized financial advice.